In 1943, a Japanese farmer named Teruo Hiya was trying to solve a problem that every gardener alive has faced. He had kitchen scraps, he had hungry plants, and he had no money for fertilizer. What he discovered in that small experiment changed soil science permanently, though you would never know it from walking into any garden center today. He took a simple plastic bucket. He added his kitchen waste. He introduced a specific group of microorganisms that already existed in his soil. And instead of the slow, complicated process of composting that takes months and requires turning and monitoring in space, his bucket transformed that waste into liquid plant food in under 2 weeks, fully fermented, more bioavailable than anything on a store shelf, and completely free. His research was eventually published. It was adopted across Japan, across Korea, across Southeast Asia, where millions of small farms still use this exact method today. The technique is called bokashi, and in America, almost no one has heard of it. That silence is not accidental. A bag of balanced synthetic fertilizer costs around $25. It lasts 1 season. The average home gardener in America spends $340 on fertilizer over 10 years. $340 on something that a $5 bucket and your kitchen scraps can replace permanently. The fertilizer industry is worth $200 billion annually. It has no economic interest in you discovering that your banana peels and coffee grounds, properly fermented, deliver nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, calcium, and magnesium directly to your plant roots in a form more bioavailable than any synthetic product they can manufacture. So let me ask you something before we go further. How many bags of fertilizer have you bought in the last 5 years? Drop the number in the comments. I want to see what this industry has actually cost this community. Today, I'm going to show you exactly how to build this system. Everything about it, from the science behind why it works better than composting, the exact process step by step, what to do with the output, and what happens to your soil after a full-grown season of using it. By the time this video ends, you will never look at a kitchen scrap the same way again. Let us start with why this works, because understanding the mechanism is what separates people who try this once from people who use it for the rest of their lives. Your kitchen waste is not garbage. It is concentrated organic matter loaded with the building blocks of every nutrient your plants need. The problem with traditional composting is that it relies on aerobic decomposition, breakdown, that requires oxygen, regular turning, specific moisture levels, specific carbon to nitrogen ratios, and 3 to 6 months of waiting. Get any one of those variables wrong and your pile smells, attracts pests, or simply stops working. Bokashi uses anaerobic fermentation instead. It is fundamentally different. Rather than rotting the material down, it pickles it. A specific consortium of microorganisms, primarily lactic acid bacteria, photosynthetic bacteria, and naturally occurring yeasts, consumes the organic matter and produces a fermented product that is acidic, stable, and extraordinarily rich in nutrients. The process happens in a sealed bucket with no oxygen. It takes 10 to 14 days. It produces no smell while sealed. And it accepts virtually every type of kitchen waste, including meat, dairy, cooked food, and citrus. Things that traditional composting cannot handle without causing serious problems. Here is why it outperforms synthetic fertilizer. When you apply synthetic NPK to your soil, you're delivering nutrients in a chemical form that plants can access immediately. But that also bypasses and gradually destroys the soil food web. The bacteria, fungi, and microorganisms that make your soil alive cannot feed on synthetic salts. Over time, synthetic fertilizer use degrades soil biology. You get short-term yield at the cost of long-term soil health. It is, deliberately or not, a system that makes you more dependent over time, not less. Fermented bokashi material, when applied to soil, does the opposite. The lactic acid bacteria in the fermented material are beneficial to the existing soil microbiome. The fermentation process has already broken the organic material into forms that are immediately bioavailable to plants. The organic acids produced during fermentation chelate minerals in the soil, which means they bind to minerals that were previously locked in forms plants could not access and convert them into a usable state. You are not just adding nutrients, you are unlocking nutrients that were already there. Has anyone here noticed that your plants seem to need more and more fertilizer each season to get the same results? That is the synthetic fertilizer trap. Drop a yes in the comments if that sounds familiar. I want to know how widespread this is. Now let us build the system. You need 3 things. A bucket with a tight-fitting lid. Any 5-gallon bucket works, though a dedicated bokashi bucket with a spigot at the bottom is available for around $5 and makes the process easier. Bokashi bran, which is wheat bran inoculated with the beneficial microorganism consortium. A small bag costs around $8 and lasts months. And your kitchen waste. That is the entire input cost, $8 once. After that, the system is free for as long as you have a kitchen. Start with your bucket. At the bottom, add a thin layer of bokashi bran, roughly a tablespoon. Then add your kitchen scraps. Anything works. Vegetable peels, fruit scraps, coffee grounds, eggshells, meat, fish, bread, cooked leftovers, dairy. Tear or cut larger pieces down so they are not thicker than an inch. This increases surface area and accelerates fermentation. Add another tablespoon of bokashi bran on top of the scraps. Press the material down firmly to remove air pockets. Seal the lid tightly. Every time you add new material over the following days, repeat the process. Scraps, bran, press, seal. Never leave it open. The fermentation is anaerobic. Oxygen disrupts it. After 10 to 14 days with no new additions, your bokashi is complete. You will know it is done correctly when it smells pleasantly sour and fermented, similar to pickles or vinegar. You will see white fungal threads throughout the material. This is correct and healthy. If it smells putrid or shows black mold, oxygen entered the system and you need to start over. What you have now is two products: the solid fermented material in the bucket, and if you used a bucket with a spigot, liquid that has drained to the bottom, called bokashi tea. The bokashi tea is used diluted. Mix 1 tablespoon into 1 liter of water and apply directly to soil around plant bases twice weekly. This concentration delivers the fermentation byproducts directly into the root zone. In studies comparing bokashi tea application to synthetic fertilizer application, plant growth rates showed no statistically significant difference in the first season, but soil health markers continue to improve in the bokashi plots while declining in the synthetic plots over time. The synthetic fertilizer is borrowing from your soil's future. The bokashi is investing in it. What do you currently use as your main fertilizer? Drop it in the comments below. I want to see what people are spending money on that this system can replace. The solid fermented material goes directly into your soil. Dig a small trench alongside your plants, add the fermented material, cover it with soil, and leave it. Do not add it directly to plant roots. The fermentation is still acidic and needs 2 weeks of contact with soil bacteria to fully neutralize. But during those 2 weeks, something remarkable happens. The soil microbiome explodes in activity around the buried material. Worm populations increase rapidly. Bokashi material is extraordinarily attractive to earthworms. The organic acids begin chelating locked minerals. And by week 2, what was kitchen waste is now indistinguishable from the richest possible soil amendment. Here is the comparison that should bother you. A $25 bag of synthetic fertilizer delivers a fixed dose of 3 macronutrients in chemical form. Your bucket of bokashi delivers all 3 macronutrients plus calcium, magnesium, trace minerals, beneficial bacteria, organic acids, and a complete microbiome stimulus from material that you're going to throw away. Let me be specific about what your kitchen waste contains that you are currently sending to landfill. Banana peels are extremely high in potassium and also contain calcium, manganese, and phosphorus. Coffee grounds contain nitrogen at roughly 2% by weight, the same concentration as many mid-grade synthetic fertilizers, plus potassium and phosphorus. Eggshells are almost pure calcium carbonate, the same compound sold as garden lime at $12 per bag. Vegetable scraps contain the complete mineral profile of the plants they came from, which is often richer than what any synthetic blend provides. You're paying money to throw money away, and then paying more money to replace what you threw away. The bokashi system closes that loop permanently. Now I want to address the question I hear most often. Can I just bury my kitchen scraps directly without the fermentation step? The honest answer is yes, but it is much slower, less effective, and has real problems. Raw kitchen scraps buried in soil will attract rodents and pests. They will create a localized anaerobic zone that is hostile to plant roots until decomposition is complete, which can take months. They will not deliver the chelating organic acids that bokashi fermentation produces. And they will not create the beneficial bacterial bloom that makes bokashi so effective for soil health. The fermentation step is not optional. It is the mechanism. Think of the bran as a starter culture and the bucket as a fermentation vessel. You are not composting, you are brewing, and the difference in output quality is dramatic. If you have tried traditional composting and found it complicated or slow or smelly, I want to hear about it. What went wrong? Drop it in the comments. Your experience might help someone else in this community avoid the same mistake. There is one more piece of this system that almost no guide covers, and it is the most important part for long-term results. When you consistently apply fermented bokashi material to the same garden beds over multiple seasons, you're not just fertilizing, you're rebuilding the soil food web from the ground up. Each application introduces lactic acid bacteria that become part of the resident soil microbiome. The chelating organic acids gradually increase the soil's cation exchange capacity, which is the scientific measure of how well soil holds and delivers nutrients to plants. Each cycle brings more earthworms whose castings further increase fertility. And the organic matter content of your soil, the single most important indicator of long-term productivity, increases measurably with every bucket you apply. This is the difference between a garden that needs more inputs each year and a garden that needs fewer. You are not just saving money on fertilizer. You are building a soil asset that increases in value the longer you use this system. The people who have been doing this for 10 years are not buying fertilizer. They are not struggling with depleted soil. They are harvesting more food from the same beds with less effort every single season. That is the real return on a $5 bucket and $8 of bran. When you walk out to your garden this weekend and pull a handful of dark, rich living soil and feel the weight of it, the moisture it holds, the organic matter visible, the slight warmth from biological activity, you will understand something that no fertilizer bag has ever given anyone. You did not feed your plants. You built something that feeds them permanently. If you want to see what the system looks like after a full growing season, the actual soil test results, the yield comparison, the before and after, subscribe and make sure the bell is on. That video is coming. And one final question for this community. What is the one kitchen scrap you produce the most of? Drop it below. I'm going to do a dedicated video on the top 5 answers showing exactly how much plant food each one contains. Your comment might become the next video. The bucket is $5. The bran is $8. The kitchen scraps are free. The knowledge is here. The only thing left is to start collecting.